Another non-Nintendo Switch related video? I guess I'm just trying to sync this channel now, aren't I? What's up guys, RGT85 here. I hope you all had an amazing holiday season, whether you celebrate Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Festivus, you got Three Kings Day coming up, whatever you want to celebrate, I'm glad you got to celebrate it. I hope you all had an amazing time. I obviously took a couple days off on the channel here. Yesterday we did a video talking about some Sega Game Gear hidden gems. Hope you guys enjoyed that video. And here we are today with next generation talk. Of course, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and potential other systems from the Xbox family are coming very soon, and recently we had a PS5 spec leak that has, well, people going crazy. You want to say that the console wars are over? Just head on over to Twitter. I follow people from every sort of spectrum, whether it's the PlayStation spectrum, the Xbox spectrum, the Nintendo spectrum, and the Xbox fanboys are dancing in the street right now, very reminiscent of David Bowie and Mick Jagger, or for you younger viewers, DaBaby dancing in the street. I kind of like DaBaby, honestly. He's one of the few new rappers that I really get into. Shoutouts to DaBaby. But yes, there has been a PS5 rumored leak for specs of the system, and it looks like it will be weaker than the Xbox Series X. And this is leading to a lot of confusion, a lot of discussion. I know a lot of my peers have made videos on this situation, and I just wanted to give my 2 cents on this situation because I feel like I look at things from a different perspective. If you've been a long-time viewer of this channel, you would know that I'm not really into the specs of sort of things. I'm more into how the specs actually work. Now, I'm sure other people have made videos about the specs and what it'll actually mean in functionality, but I just want to give a different perspective of it, go over the information that we have, and then just share my thoughts on it. So basically, in case you've been living under a rock, we are of course getting the PS5 and the Xbox Series X this upcoming year in holiday of 2020. A lot of people are expecting these two systems to launch right along side by side with each other, and it's going to be a big thing for the world of video games. But obviously, a lot of people are looking towards the power of these systems, what these systems are going to bring to the table. Back in October, we got a press release from Sony talking very briefly about the PlayStation 5, really just giving some very scant information on it. And then, of course, at the Game Awards 2019, Phil Spencer went out on stage and dropped the bomb of the Xbox Series X. And then in a subsequent update from Microsoft's website, we got some concrete information on the system. So now a lot of people are looking at the teraflops of the system. Evidently, teraflops are the new bits for, the modern gaming era. You used to talk about the bits of a system. Oh, you gotta have 64 bits like the Atari Jaguar. Your Super Nintendo only has 16 bits. Oh, that stinks. Now it's all about teraflops. Everyone cares about the teraflops of the system. But I basically just want to go over this rumored information, this leak for the PS5 specs, compare it to the Xbox Series X, compare it to what's available on the market right now, and just give you guys my thoughts on what this all means. So first off, let's talk about the Xbox Series X, because that's the system that we have the most concrete information on. Of course, we were introduced to it at the Game Awards 2019. Really interesting looking system. Some people don't like the vertical size of the system. Of course, you can lay it down horizontally, but it looks like it's designed with a vertical base in mind. Some people think it's a bit too tall. Who really cares? Just move it next to your entertainment center. It's not the end of the world. But like I said, we were introduced to this system. We, of course, saw a game running on this system, that being Hellblade 2, which looked absolutely fantastic. So a lot of people were interested in the actual specs of the system. Well, after the Game Awards, Microsoft quickly put up a press release talking about the specs of the system. We did a full video on that, but I want to go over some of the highlights with you guys. The Xbox Series X is aiming at 4K at 60 frames per second, with the possibility of up to 120 frames per second, including support for variable refresh rate and potential 8K capability. Now, as far as the teraflops are concerned, Microsoft has not given a concrete information as to how many teraflops the system will contain. But the general rule of thumb and the general consensus going around in the rumor mill is that the system will have about 12 teraflops when it comes to the power of the Xbox Series X. Now, of course, like I said, we recently had some information leaked on the PS5. Now, I'm not saying this information is necessarily true. Of course, we have to wait for PlayStation and Sony to confirm information on this system. system, but we do have some basic stuff to go along, and then of course we have the rumor number for the teraflops. Now, in the press release that was given by Sony to Wired back in October, Mark Cerny did say that there is ray tracing acceleration in the GPU hardware, which I believe is a statement that people were looking for. So obviously both the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5 are going to have things like ray tracing, which is kind of the big buzzword in PC gaming right now. Like, it is a cool thing when it's actually used well. I think it is a nice visual effect, but the rumored teraflops for the PlayStation 5 puts it around 9 teraflops, about 9.2 teraflops to be precise. Now, what does that actually mean though? If the PlayStation 5 is weaker than the Xbox Series X, is it doom and gloom for the PlayStation 5? If it does launch at the 9.2 teraflops versus the 12 teraflops, are games going to rub substantially worse on the PlayStation 5? Well, I decided to look at all of the consoles that are available on the market right now and compare the teraflops of those systems to what is being rumored for these systems. When it comes to the Xbox brand of systems, we have the Xbox One X, which is the most powerful system out on the market right now, that currently has 6 teraflops. Underneath that, we have the Xbox One S, which has 1.4 teraflops. So there's a pretty substantial gap between the Xbox One X and the Xbox Series X. Looking at the PlayStation lineup of systems, we have the PlayStation 4 Pro at 4.2 teraflops, which is substantially less than the Xbox One X. And then we have the base PlayStation 4 model coming in at 1.84 teraflops. Now that's interesting because the 1.84 teraflops of the PlayStation 4 is higher than the Xbox One S at 1.4 teraflops. And then you have the little stinky Nintendo Switch, the system that nobody cares about, coming in at a whopping 1 teraflop. So in the grand scheme of things, especially looking at something like the Xbox One X to the Nintendo Switch, there's about a 5 teraflop difference. If you want some sort of practicality going into the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, I guess you would look at something like the Xbox One X at 6 teraflops versus the PlayStation 4 Pro at 4.2 teraflops. Now, what does this all mean? Is the power going to make the Xbox Series X the destination where people want to put their games on? I don't necessarily think so. When you look back at the history of video games, all up until the present time, power does not indicate a victory or a superior console when it comes to things like this. Look at the NES versus the Sega Master System. The NES, of course, is one of the best and most fondly remembered systems of all time. But the Sega Master System was a stronger system. It had better graphics than the NES did. It just didn't have the library of games. And you can look all throughout the course of history with video gaming to see that power doesn't really mean that much in the grand scheme of things. If power did mean things, then the PlayStation 3 would have outsold the Xbox 360 at the launch of the system. The Nintendo Wii wouldn't have mattered. If power really mattered and power was the be-all end-all thing, then why is the Xbox One X not the best console selling on the market right now? The Nintendo Switch has already surpassed the Xbox One brand when it comes to sales for the system, combining the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch Lite versus the Xbox One X, the Xbox One S, and the original Xbox One model. And of course, the Xbox One got quite a head start on the Nintendo Switch, yet the Nintendo Switch managed to surpass that. The Xbox One X has been on the market for over 2 years now, yet you haven't heard any concrete sales figures on the Xbox One X. All you've really heard from the Microsoft camp when it comes to the Xbox One X is that it is the best place to play your third-party games. And that's probably true. When you look at things from a graphical standpoint, the graphics do tend to look a smidge better on the Xbox One X than they do on something like the PlayStation 4 Pro or the baseline PlayStation 4 model. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The main thing is, though, you have to end up convincing these developers for these games to want to utilize the additional power of these systems. If you're looking at something like the PS5 versus the Xbox Series X and designing a game, do you want to downscale that game for the PlayStation 5, or do you want to design that game with the PlayStation 5 in mind and then maybe upscale it to something that the Xbox Series X is capable of, or just keeping it pretty much the same across the board? What really matters at the end of the day is which system is selling better, which system is the more prominent system in the marketplace. And all because Xbox is coming out here with guns blazing with the most powerful system doesn't necessarily necessarily mean that this system is going to be a success, because you have to look at something here. If the Xbox Series X is more powerful than the PlayStation 5 by a substantial amount, let's say 3 teraflops here, then the PlayStation 5 is probably going to be the cheaper of the two systems. And a lot of people have a lot of good feelings about the PlayStation brand right now going into the next generation, because the PlayStation 4 was so dominant over the Xbox One. So when you're factoring in things like price, the consumer is going to look at these two systems and really have to decide, will there be enough of a gap in order to potentially pay more for an Xbox Series X? Now, of course, there is the whole rumor that there could be an all-digital console with the Xbox brand coming up in 2020 with the Xbox Lockhart, which would be a weaker system, more lined up with something like the Xbox One X, but it wouldn't have, of course, all of the working parts that something like the Xbox Series X has, thus leading to a lower price point. But that would have to be more than likely an all-digital system, and I don't think that that's big enough right now to have consumers want to get something like that. If it was, the Xbox SAD would have done a little bit better, and well, we all know the Xbox SAD just didn't do all that great, and that really came down to the price point as well. If you look at something like an Xbox Lockhart that doesn't have a disc drive but is maybe $300 versus something like a PlayStation 5, which could potentially be $400, and then the Xbox Series X, which is $500, it really is just going to come down to what it always comes down to with, and that's the actual games. At the end of the day, people will buy a system for the games, for the exclusives. The third parties are just a sprinkling on the cake for it. When it comes down to it, people love their third-party games, but they buy systems with these exclusives in mind. When you look at how well exclusives have sold on the PlayStation 4 and the Nintendo Switch, that is indicative of that. So at the end of the day, if you want all these teraflops and you're concerned about all these teraflops, go buy a damn PC. Like, PCs are stronger than what you're going to see with the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X. So really, I don't think this is a big deal at all. If for some reason the Xbox Series X does launch at 12 teraflops and the PlayStation 5 launches at 9 teraflops, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, what matters is the games and what they utilize this power and how they harness this power when it comes to the games. So at the end of the day, I'm not concerned about this any bit. I'm going to buy both of these systems, but I don't necessarily think that the Xbox Series X is running away with stuff right now if it is 3 teraflops stronger than the PlayStation 5. But those are my thoughts on this situation that's going on right now. I wouldn't be dancing in the street if you're an Xbox diehard. I would definitely wait and see what the PlayStation 5 is going to bring to the table, and if indeed you are 3 teraflops stronger, who cares? The stronger systems always tend to fall out to the weaker systems because of things like price points and things like games. So I wouldn't hatch all of your eggs in that one basket just quite yet. But those are my thoughts on this situation. Let me know your thoughts on this situation in the comments section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. Be sure to check out other videos on the channel. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.